So anybody that saw my video last week going over the new regulation change in Formula 1 when it comes to foul language, which I'm not in favour of course, I don't think it's a good idea to be policing free speech like that, but I think even more concerningly, the absolutely depressing, to be quite frank, a regulation where the FIA now can no longer be criticised without punishment. Drivers can get up to a month ban for offences and also have championship points deducted. Imagine if we get a situation where a driver loses out on the World Championship because they said something very naughty in a press conference. It is beyond petty and pathetic. And now I've been waiting for the response. I've been waiting for the response from the Grand Prix Drivers Association, but also some of the drivers and team personnel as well, because this affects them too. This also applies to mechanics and, potentially mechanics, anybody who has some sort of media involvement in Formula 1, so all the team bosses and stuff like that, the race engineers. It is a truly depressing state of affairs in Formula 1, really, when it comes to this. So let's have a look, guys. 3 Formula 1 faces, so I don't know if these are drivers or somebody else, have hit out at our glorious leader, Mohammed Ben Sulayem, the FIA president, our Lord and Saviour himself. Let's have a look at the F1Chronicle.com, guys, and see what's been said here. And if you can't tell, I'm being rather sarcastic. 3 well-known Formula 1 figures think that FIA, under the controversial leadership of President Mohammed Ben Sulayem, is a mess. Agreed. Understatement, if anything. Last week, it emerged that Ben Sulayem's clampdown on off-track bad behaviour, like swearing, has been supercharged for 2025, with drivers now facing up to 6-digit fines, month-long bans, and even points deductions. A spokesman for the Paris-based federation tried to play down the resulting furore, there we go, insisting the changes are about improving the transparency and consistency of decision-making. Transparency and consistency. You know, I don't need to elaborate on that. If you guys saw my video about this when it first came out, you will know that this has been anything but this has been as transparent as a brick wall. He told Bild newspaper all major sports federations such as the NFL, FIFA and IOC, oh yeah, the totally not corrupt organisation FIFA, have similar rules and fines to protect the integrity of the sport. The FIA is not the only federation that punishes competitors for misconduct. The Grand Prix Drivers Association, GPDA, however, was scathing of the earlier measures taken last year, and even slammed the FIA for not disclosing what the fines are spent on, something that they have still not responded to. This feels like the response, guys. I've said this numerous times. This feels like the FIA's response to the GPDA's letter, saying, oh, don't treat us like children, treat us like adults. There's differences between, using bad language to offend and using bad language just to describe things. They didn't respond. This feels like the response. Well, if you're going to get annoyed at that, we're going to double down on this for you. FIA single-seater boss Nicholas Tombashis insisted that as a non-profit organisation, the FIA spends money on safety and grassroots programs and not Christmas parties or anything like that. Do you think they actually believe you saying that? Showed the receipts, man. Where are the financial forms? If you got nothing to hide, you got nothing to fear. Just saying. Still, up and down the paddock, Ben Sulayem's leadership style has won him a few friends. Even Haas team boss Ayu Komatsu admits his concerns. I should have said few friends there. He's made no friends. He's made enemies of so many people, Hamilton included. Check out my video about that back in the day. Please don't write this as a headline that said, Ayu says the FIA is a mess, he smiled. But that's what everybody thinks. That's what everybody experiences. I don't know what else to say. It's not good, is it? But I don't want to get involved in that political battle. According to 2 non-Formula 1 drivers, the mess extends beyond Formula 1. In July, they planned the Formula E race in Berlin and the 6 hours of Sao Paulo in the same weekend. Driver and F1 pundit Robert Freins told the Telegraph newspaper in the Netherlands, explaining that he will have to sit out of one of the events. Very good point. That is a mess. Why? It's not like F1 where they've got 25 races. Like WEC and Formula E have like 10 races a season, if that. It's very unfortunate, and I am quite angry about that, he said. In the past, it was never really a problem to plan the races properly, but since John Todt left as president, it is sometimes a mess there. Nick De Vries, who like Robin Freins is switched between Formula E and WEC, agrees. You can't tell me that there was no way to avoid a clash. I'm really annoyed about it, actually, said the former Formula 1 driver. It all seems completely unnecessary to me. That is a key phrase when it comes to this. It is all a bit unnecessary. that absolutely sums up the state of affairs. And by the way, this language and criticism ban, this is going to extend to WEC, Formula E, WRC, any top-level motorsport series that is sanctioned by the FIA itself is, of course, going to be subject to these punishments. Now, of course, there is going to be the devil's advocate here. Who is the devil? You know who the devil is, guys. I don't need to spell that one out. There is the devil advocate that will probably say, oh, well, they will probably only use these incredibly harsh punishments when it's absolutely necessary to, when it's a very serious offence. But the wording of the regulations, which I've gone over before, absolutely leaves this open-ended. And something I did not mention when it came to this as well is the fact that it's so subjective as well. And I did mention that, sorry, I should say, but I didn't say how bad that is in a sense. Now, something that we're all kind of familiar with these days is very much people being offended at everything. It's a stereotype, and I'm not going to get into all the politics of that, of course, but something that cannot be denied is that people these days absolutely claim they're offended by everything, right? I get it in my comment section quite a bit, right? It happens quite often where people get offended over the lightest little things. It is unbelievable. And the FIA, according to their own rules, which they've made up, voted for by themselves without the proper stakeholders present, with people not even informed about it. They've basically decided that if they think that they're offended, if they are offended by comments that you've made as a driver or team personnel, you can be sanctioned for it. And there is no black and white there at all. It is totally grey. It's like, well, if we choose to take offence, we're offended, and you're going to be punished. Honestly, it is going to be, if they act upon these regulations, which, of course, they will do. They've already done it before. Max Verstappen with his community service. Man's there in a chain gang in bloody Rwanda or wherever he was doing. Man's breaking rocks apart in an orange jumpsuit. Well, it's an orange jumpsuit. It works, doesn't it? He's Dutch. But you know what I mean? He didn't do that, by the way. He helped out some random children. It was actually really sweet. But that's not the point. You shouldn't have to do that. You should not be forced to do that. But honestly, I'm just gonna sign off the video because I'm gonna get too angry about this. If you want to go check out my other rant about this, please do. I could go on about this for a long time, and I already have done. So we're gonna see what is gonna transpire when it comes to these regulations, because I really do fear the worst. I really do fear the worst. And the one final point as well, and this was made when I was on Grid Talk, fantastic podcast, if I don't say so myself. It's obviously part of what I do. I do F1 Chronicle, I do the Chronicles, of course, but I also appear on that podcast. And I hosted one this weekend, which should be out, which will be out later this week. I say it should be out. It will be because I'm editing it. But when it comes to that, someone raised a very, very good point about free speech and safety as well. If Formula One had no free speech in terms of criticising the FIA back in the 1960s when, you know, dudes were dying on a yearly basis, right? They were crashing in fatal accidents on a regular basis, several a season, several a race sometimes. Look out the, what was it now, the 1960 Belgian Grand Prix. 2 dudes died in the same race, right? That was not unheard of back then. You know, if they didn't have the criticism of the FIA back then on Formula One, if they were not allowed to criticise the safety standards of the time, then the safety standards may never have improved. It probably would never have improved. The Formula One had no interest in that at all. It's only because the drivers took a stance, unionised. I think they actually formed the GPDA back then, didn't they? And that's how they did it. They got races cancelled, they made safety improvements. But if that was deemed illegal, if they would have been punished financially for it, or not allowed to race for a month or whatever, would they have still done it? Probably. They probably still would have done it. But the point is, they would have been absolutely hampered by it by the FIA, and the sports governing body would have even looked worse than they actually did. And trust me, it looked bad then. And right now, it's looking pretty bad again too. Anyway. I've gone on for long enough. I could go on, like I said, I could go on about this for hours. It's genuinely so bad. But your thoughts in the comments below, guys. Check out my videos on the subject if you haven't already. If you're not already angered enough by it, I'll stoke the flames. I've done some more videos about this subject too. And for more subjects on Formula One, good and bad, and downright ugly like this, keep it tuned here to the F1Chronicle.com. Like, share, comment, subscribe, ring the bell as always, guys. See you soon. Have a good one.